Dubro Suspicion Files.
You know, some cases just stick with you. They're so bizarre, so disturbing, that they defy easy explanation. Today, we're diving into one of the most baffling cold cases in modern history. We're going to look past the official story and let the forensic evidence tell us what really happened to the man in the pipe. So, picture this. It's February 28th, 1989, in a small, quiet village in Japan. A school teacher makes a discovery that is, frankly, the stuff of nightmares. A man is found dead, his body folded into the U-bend of a septic tank pipe just inches beneath her own bathroom floor. And that, right there, is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because when you really start to look at the evidence, the official explanation isn't just unlikely, it seems physically impossible. All right, let's set this scene properly. We're in a little village in Fukushima Prefecture. The victim is a 26-year-old man named Nayayuki Kano, a well-liked local guy who'd been missing for 4 days. And he's found wedged inside this cramped, dark, filthy space, shirtless, clutching his sweater to his chest. So the police? They wrapped this up super fast. Their official story was that Kano, who they claimed was secretly a Peeping Tom, crawled into the septic tank to spy on the teacher, got himself stuck, and froze to death. It's a shameful, tragic story that closed the book on his life. But it's a story that just completely falls apart the second you apply a little bit of logic. And here's where the official story really hits a wall, a big one. And that wall is, well, it's basic physics. Let's just look at the raw numbers, because they reveal a paradox that you just can't ignore. The container was smaller than the content. Okay, get this. The pipe itself was just 36 centimeters in diameter. That's about 14 inches. It's a standard, rigid PVC pipe. I mean, just take a second to really visualize how narrow that is. Now, let's compare that to Nayayuki Kano. He was an adult male of average build, and his shoulder width was estimated to be somewhere between 40 and 43 centimeters. So, you see the problem here, right? His shoulders were literally wider than the pipe's diameter. How in the world could he have squeezed himself inside? There's a quote from an independent analysis of the case that just hits the nail on the head. The pipe was not a vantage point, it was a sarcophagus. I mean, think about it, the angle was all wrong for peeping, any view would have been blocked by sewage, and once you were in, there was absolutely no way out. Okay, let's just break down the biomechanics for a second. To even try to get in there, Conroe would have had to pin his arms straight up over his head, dislocate something just to compress his shoulders enough to fit. Then, he'd have to somehow squirm his way like a worm through freezing sludge in total darkness with zero leverage. The physics just don't add up. Not even close. All right, so if the physics doesn't work, let's look at the crime scene itself. Because if this was staged, whoever did it, they weren't perfect. They made mistakes. Now, this timeline is a huge red flag. Kano went missing on February 24th, but the police figured his time of death was 2 days later, on the 26th. So, if he was trapped alive in that pipe for 48 hours, why didn't anyone hear him? The teacher was home. That pipe would have amplified every sound. This timeline strongly suggests he was put in that pipe after he was already unconscious, or worse. And the anomalies just keep piling up. First, the total silence. Then, you've got his car, found nearby with the keys still in the ignition, like he was planning to be right back. And then there's the clothing. I mean, seriously, how do you take off a sweater when you're jammed inside a 14-inch pipe? You can't. That sweater, bunched up on his chest, screams that he was pushed in. But honestly, the one clue that just blows the entire accident theory out of the water might be the simplest one. One of Kano's shoes was found outside the septic tank, okay? But the other one, it was found inside the pipe, right next to his head. Just think about that. Whether he went in feet first or head first, how does a shoe travel the entire length of his body to end up by his head? It's a classic staging error, a sign that things were just carelessly tossed in after him. So, if he wasn't who the police said he was, then who was Nayayuki Kano really? To get anywhere with this, we have to look past the character assassination and actually examine the man himself. See, you've got two completely different pictures of this guy. The police painted him as a deviant, a secretive voyeur, but the reality, it was the complete opposite. Kano was a popular, energetic youth leader known as the mood maker in his community. He was deeply involved in local politics, he had no criminal record, no history of any kind of misconduct. He just didn't fit the profile, at all. So you have to ask, why did this impossible story stick? Well, context is everything.
Back in 1989, Japan was in the middle of this intense moral panic over a serial killer, and the police were under a ton of pressure. Labeling Kano a pervert was just a convenient way to close a really bizarre case. The police even confiscated tapes of prank calls the teacher had been getting, claiming the voice was Kano's, with zero proof. It's totally possible those tapes could have cleared his name.
So, once you strip away the impossible accident theory, what are you left with? There's really only one logical alternative. You have to start reconstructing this as a homicide, because it's the only way all the weird, contradictory pieces of evidence start to make sense.
And if you think about it this way, suddenly everything clicks into place. Kano is lured away from his car. He's incapacitated, maybe with a blow to the head. He's then transported to the septic tank. It's a perfect hidden dumping ground. The killers force his body into the pipe to hide it, and in their hurry, they make mistakes, like just tossing a shoe in after him.
And let's circle back to that sweater because it's so critical. The way it was bunched up at his chest is a dead giveaway for external force. See, when a body is shoved into a tight space, friction just naturally rolls clothing up like that. The position of that sweater is the silent testimony of his body being pushed, not him crawling.
But okay, if it was murder, the big question is why? What possible motive could there be? While the original investigation seems to have completely ignored two really powerful possibilities, both tied to power and money in that small village.
There were two huge potential motives staring them in the face. First, Kano was a key player in a really nasty mayoral election, a world known for corruption and kickbacks over things like construction contracts. Did he know something he shouldn't have? And second, he worked for a subsidiary of TAPECO, maintaining nuclear power plants. In a post-Chernobyl world, a potential whistleblower could be a massive liability.
So why the cover-up? Why push this shameful story? Well, this quote from the analysis I think gets right to the heart of it. A messy murder investigation would bring shame and intense scrutiny to the entire village. But Brandon one-man a pervert who died in a freak accident? Well, that isolates the tragedy. It silences questions and lets the whole community just move on.
And that's really where this case leaves us. The evidence screams staged homicide, but it was masked by a convenient and shameful lie. So the real lingering question isn't just about the physics of how he got into that pipe. It's about the social dynamics of why an entire community and the authorities were willing to accept an impossible story. It makes you wonder, why was no one willing to ask the obvious questions?